Tom Harrison lived by a simple creed as timeless as the earth beneath his feet. Live and let live. His farm, a sprawling patchwork of fields handed down through generations, was more than just a home or a livelihood. It was a legacy, a testament to the resilience and determination of those who'd worked the land before him. Each dawn, as the sun brushed golden light across the cornfields and the rich scent of soil rose into the air, Tom found a peace that needed no explanation. But that peace was about to be tested not by drought or blight but by a force far more persistent, Susan Caldwell. Susan had appointed herself the unofficial queen of the Homeowners Association in a nearby suburb called Pine View Heights, a development that had popped up just 5 years earlier. She was the kind of person who wielded her authority like a scepter, obsessed with controlling every detail and intolerant of anything that didn't fit her vision of perfection. Though Tom's farm lay just outside the HOA's jurisdiction, something about his weathered barn, grazing livestock, and gravel drive offended her pristine sensibilities. The first time Susan strutted onto Tom's property, she came prepared, as if the mere existence of mud was a personal insult. Dressed in an immaculate cream blazer and skirt, clutching a clipboard like a weapon, she marched up to Tom's porch with the air of someone who rarely met resistance. Tom, sipping coffee in his rocking chair, watched her approach with mild amusement. "You must be Mr. Harrison," she said sharply, like a telemarketer launching into a rehearsed spiel. "That's me," Tom replied, taking a slow sip. "I'm Susan Caldwell, president of the Pine View Heights HOA. Tom raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know my farm had anything to do with Pine View Heights. Susan's smile was thin, barely masking her impatience. "Technically it doesn't. But your land borders our community, and as I'm sure you're aware, property values are delicate. We've had concerns about the noise, the smell, and the overall look of your farm. We strive for a certain standard in our neighborhood, and a few adjustments could help your place fit in better." Tom set his mug down, leaning back. "Adjustments? For instance," Susan continued, undeterred, "that bright blue barn is quite an eyesore. A more neutral color might work better. And the rooster, some residents say it wakes them too early. It's been disruptive." Tom scratched his jaw, half expecting her to break into a grin and admit this was a joke. That barn had stood for over 60 years. Its bold hue a family tradition. The rooster? Just being a rooster. "So you want me to repaint my barn and gag nature because your folks don't like farm life?" he asked, voice dry. Susan's smile tightened. "Mr. Harrison, I understand change can be hard, but this benefits everyone. I'd hate for this to escalate." Tom stood, stretching lazily. "Appreciate the view. I sit Ms. Caldwell, but my farm's not under your HOA. Your rules don't reach here, and my land's not bothering anyone." Her lips pressed into a line. "We'll see about that," she snapped, before turning on her heel and stalking back to her gleaming SUV. Tom watched her go, shaking his head. He'd handled stubborn mules before, but Susan was a different beast altogether. The trouble didn't dawdle. Soon, letters arrived, formal demands on HOA letterhead, insisting he comply with rules that didn't apply to him. Then came a flurry of fake complaints, calls to county officials alleging violations that didn't exist. Tom shrugged it off until Susan returned, this time flanked by 2 puffed-up board members. "You again," Tom muttered, wiping grease from his hands as he stepped away from fixing a tractor. "Mr. Harrison," Susan said, her tone dripping with false sweetness, "I'd hope we could resolve this like adults, but you keep ignoring our notices." "Because they're nonsense," Tom shot back, crossing his arms. Susan handed him a sheet of paper. "As per HOA guidelines." "I'm not in your HOA," Tom interrupted, waving the page back at her. "As per HOA guidelines," she pressed on, voice sharpening, "all properties adjacent to Pine View Heights must align with our aesthetic standards. Further action will be taken if needed." Tom laughed outright. "Lady, you're not my boss. You've got no say here." Susan didn't flinch, but one of her lackeys, a skinny guy with a nasal voice, piped up. "We've contacted county zoning. If your farm violates code, there could be fines." Tom's grin faded slightly. His farm met every regulation, but he knew Susan's type, relentless and petty. They'd twist anything to win. "Do what you gotta do," he said, stepping closer. "But if you or your buddies trespass again, I'm calling the sheriff." Susan's composure flickered, frustration breaking through before she regained her mask. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No," Tom said coolly, "you are." He turned and walked off, Leah vying her, fuming. That should have been the end, but Susan wasn't one to quit. A stiff envelope appeared in Tom's mailbox one morning, stamped with the HOA's logo. Inside was a list of absurd infractions. The blue barn clashed with the neighborhood, the rooster crowed before 7 a.m., his cows and chickens were unauthorized. It demanded compliance within a week or threatened legal action. Tom laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee, pinning the letter to his fridge like a trophy. But Susan kept pushing. County inspectors showed up days later, tipped off by anonymous complaints obviously Susan's doing. They checked everything: health, zoning, animal welfare. Each left empty-handed. One, a gruff older man named Bill, gave Tom a wry look. "Son, I don't know who you ticked off, but this is the cleanest farm I've seen. Wild goose chase. Guessing it's that HOA lady?" Tom ventured. Bill sighed. "Off the record? Her name's on every report." Still, Susan escalated. One afternoon, Tom heard a chainsaw near his property line. Dropping his tools, he found workers erecting a hideous gray fence in his land supervised set by Susan, clipboard in hand. "What the hell's this?" Tom demanded, storming over. Susan turned, feigning surprise. "Oh, Mr. Harrison, we're just adding a privacy fence for Pine VYW Heights benefit." "This is my land," Tom growled. "Well," Susan said smoothly, "old survey maps suggest your boundary might be off. Until it's settled, we're proceeding." Tom's eyes narrowed. "You think my property line's wrong?" "Yes," she replied, unfazed. He turned to the workers. "Got a permit?" One hesitated. "The HOA said it's all legal." "They're wrong," Tom said. "Leave in 5 minutes or I'm calling the sheriff for trespassing." The workers stopped, uneasy. Susan snapped, "You can't just." Tom dialed his phone. "Wanna bet?" She paled. "That won't be necessary," she muttered, eyeing the crew off. The fence was abandoned, but Tom wasn't done. That night, he dug out his deed and survey, sending copies with a cease and desist letter to the HOA. A week later, he woke to a for sale sign on his land, claiming it was under negotiation for Pine VYW Heights. Furious, he ripped it down. Susan appeared soon after, all smiles. "A mix-up, I'm sure. Realtors assumed your land was part of our expansion." "You're insane if you think I wouldn't notice," Tom said. "Tell them to stay off my property or I'm suing for fraud." Susan's mask slipped. "Let's not be rash." "County's a phone call away," Tom cut in. She stormed off, defeated but not finished. Tom struck back. He filed every document with the county, called Sheriff Dan Miller his old friend and briefed him. "She tried fencing my land and faking a sale?" Dan marveled. "Call me next time she steps over." Then Tom got creative. Susan hated his rooster? He added 3 more, letting them crow at dawn. She'd complained about his unkempt farm? He planted a wall of sunflowers along the border, bright and wild. Best of all, he teamed with a pal, Ethan, to host a farm day event. Free entry, animals, music. The town loved it. Susan predictably showed up raging. "This is a circus," she yelled. "It's legal," Tom grinned. "Might make it weekly." She stomped off, powerless. But then came a drone hired by Susan to spy. Tom caught the guy, called his lawyer, and crashed an HOA meeting with proof, security footage, letters, the works. "You've harassed me, trespassed, and spied," he boomed, slamming papers down. "Stop or I sue you all." Susan sputtered, but the board turned. "He's not even in the HOA," one said. "The president," Mark agreed. "Karen, you've gone too far." She was voted out that night. Her house went up for sale soon after. Rumors swirling she'd been pushed out. Tom's farm thrived, his market a hit. He added a sign, Harrison Farms, HOA free since 1950. Susan was gone and Tom had one piece restored, with a side of sweet revenge.